During this Microsoft Excel tutorial, we're going to be looking at the lookup function. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the three different types of lookup function, which are the normal lookup, the VLOOKUP, and the HLOOKUP. Now, they all do the same task, but in a slightly different way. So, to show you these, I'm going to use the June 2007 paper 3 question and the information from that. So in the June 2007 paper 3 we have question number 2, which is a lookup question, which says in the company column use a lookup function. So it's telling you which function to use to show the company name. This is the company column in the J7 stock 2 file. The question then says use the C code column for the lookup value, so it's telling us to use this column for the lookup value. Now, importantly, Microsoft Excel can only look at one value at a time, so we know that the value is only going to be one cell, and that cell in this case will be A7. And then the question says, and the file J7 code for the array. Now, an array is always a group of information, and it's telling us to use the J7 code. I always find it easy if I open both worksheets in one workbook. So to do that, I'm going to go to Microsoft Excel. I've already got J7 stock 2 open. I'm going to go to File and open the J7 code, which is the supporting document, J7 code. I'm then going to copy them both into the same workbook just to make my life easy. To do that, if I right click on the J7 code tab here and select Move or Copy, I can then copy this J7 code where it says to book, move it to J7 stock 2. Click OK. I now have them both in the same workbook, so I can toggle between the two quite easily. So for this question, there are two different types of lookup functions I could use. I could use the VLOOKUP, or I could use the normal lookup function. I will start by using the simple lookup function, which is the easiest one to use, but it's slightly more limited. Now, to illustrate during this tutorial, I'm going to use a function library, but you can quite easily just type in the function in the formulas bar if you know what it is. So, first of all, the question says in the company column, so I know I'm working here, and use a lookup function. So, the lookup function, I'm going to go to the formulas ribbon, select the lookup in the function library, and then I'm going to use lookup. I now have an option which says lookup value, lookup vector, result vector. The question doesn't say anything about a vector or result vector, however it does say about a lookup value and array, so I know to select the second option and click OK. The lookup value, we know that a value is one piece of information, and the question also tells us to use the C code column for that value. So if I click on the value in the C code column, which is A7 for the lookup value, and then in the function arguments here, click on the array. Now the question again tells us to use the file J7 code for the array. So for the array, if I click on J7 code, then all I need to do is highlight the information in the J7 code sheet. Now I need to remember I don't need to highlight the titles in this sheet, they're not part of the information. The question also tells us make sure you use both an absolute and relative referencing. You should by now know the difference between absolute and relative referencing. As a general rule, an array will always be an absolute reference and a value will be a relative reference. So I'm going to make this absolute by putting the $ in front of the A, and the $ in front of the 2, a $ in front of the B, and $sign in front of the 14. And I can see it's given me the answer there, it's better by, and then click OK. I'm now going to double click on the small box at the bottom right hand side of the answer there in B7. I wait till my cursor becomes a small cross. That should copy the answers down, and then if I double click in between column B and C, that will automatically expand this column so I can see all the information. So that's the normal lookup function complete. I'm now going to, you can see that all these match up, UTB, MB, DY, BB, beta by, etc. I'm now going to do the same task, but this time I'm going to use the VLOOKUP. So I'm going to delete all of these. Just delete. This time I'm going to use the VLOOKUP to do the same task. So again, I'm going to the function library and then select VLOOKUP. Now the lookup value, again, the question tells us what the lookup value is. The lookup value is A7. The table array is J7 code. I like that. Don't forget, I need to make this an absolute reference again. So a $ in front of the A, in front of the 2, in front of the B, and in front of the 14. The column index refers to, if I just go back to J7 code to show you, refers to how many rows or columns in the information is. So in this case, the coding is in column A, and the data that we're looking for is in column B. Now we need to see these as a number, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So in this column index, I'm going to select 2, which represents this column here, and then the range lookup is telling us whether it's a logical value, true or false. In this case, we want it to be true, so if we select 1 for true, and then click OK. Again, if I double click here, that will copy them answers down. So that's the VLOOKUP. Now the only difference, I'm going to delete them, sorry. The only difference with the HLOOKUP is if the information is not, if the data is not laid out vertically, it's laid out horizontally, then we need to set a different lookup. So for example, if your data was set out like this, with the codes along the horizontal, then we need to use the HLOOKUP. Again, I'm going to copy these into the same workbook just to make life easy. Okay, so I'm going to do the same, but this time I'm going to use the HLOOKUP. So again, lookup and reference, HLOOKUP, lookup value, it's BB, table array, highlight the information. I think that's all the information. Make this an absolute reference by putting a $ in front of the B, in front of the 1, in front of the N, and in front of the 2. Now the row index, again I'm just going to have a quick look at this information. The row index, in this case, the code is in row 1 and the data that we're searching for is in row 2. So I'm going to select 2 again there, and then again this is true, so the value will be 1. Click OK, and then again if I double click here, that will give me the information. Okay, now you try it with a few different papers and try all 3 lookup functions.